The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And for today, we have a brand new announcement. This has been something that we've been working on in the background and just been waiting for the very right opportunity to let you guys know. Everything that you've known as the Shepnaz Podcast is going to continue as it has been, but there is a new initiative that is getting ready to launch. And I've brought in one of my own, Luke Aleshire, and also a somewhat adopted own, Lucas Gleim, here there in today. So welcome in, guys.
Thanks for having us.
How's it going?
It's going well. We've been talking off air for a little while now about maybe something that God has been stirring in your hearts and something new that you're kind of wanting to explore. And you had come to me and we talked about it. And actually, we kind of got Pastor Rob involved in the conversation and he gave it the green light. And so now we're ready to talk about it in front of some other people. But before we get there, we're still teasing it a little bit. There is something that the two of you have in common that actually is somewhat of the foundation of this new initiative. So if you would, I guess, Lucas, we'll start with you. What is it that you have in common with Luke that is relevant to this discussion?
Oh, that's relevant to that. I was gonna say both of our names start with L.
Yeah, that's not it.
But my grandfather, Dan Stiers, is a pastor.
And my grandpa, he's since passed and is now with the Lord, but he was a pastor for many years as well.
So I am a PK. I am a pastor's kid, but you guys carry a different distinction, and you're known as?
We're known as PGKs, pastors' grandkids. It's a title I hold near and dear to my heart.
So, and we do have a few of those floating around the church. We've talked about that. In fact, one of them is Pastor Rob. He is a PGK as well. So you kind of realized, hey, we have this common ground. But then, Luke, if you would tell us a little bit about something that God was kind of stirring in your heart of where this would take you.
Yeah, so I was watching YouTube one day, and I saw this guy who his account name is Brushfire. If you ever had a chance, go check him out. He's a really cool guy. But he had a bunch of videos from a few years ago, and it was all this finance stuff and money and things like that. And then out of nowhere, about a year ago, he posted this one video, and it says, "Atheist to Christian, I found God in my kitchen."
What was he doing there?
I had seen it, come up in my right, and it was just out of the blue. Like it was all this finance stuff, all this money talk, and then just out of nowhere, this thing happens. And so I watched this video, and this guy has this really cool story, and he has just an amazing testimony. And I don't want to spoil too much of it because just go watch Brushfire and watch his video on that because it is just amazing. But he talks about his story and how he was washing the dishes one day, and he just called out to God because he was having some troubles. And he just said, "God, if the God of the Bible, if Jesus is the real deal, reveal yourself to me." And he said in that moment, he dropped to his knees and was just sobbing. And from that moment on, he's gave himself to the Lord. Every single one of his videos after that has been faith-based and things like that. And so I really took to heart his story. And I realized, I was like, there are a lot of people, whether it be in our church or be in the Nazarene South Central Ohio District or the Nazarene Church in general, or even outside of that. There's so many things that God's been doing in so many people's lives that other people, other believers and other non-believers need to hear. And they might not have the platform that guy had, where he can just have an entire YouTube channel now dedicated to that. So I was thinking about, how could we get people to tell their stories where they didn't have to on their own, where we could provide them a place to testify. And so after a lot of thought and prayer, I came to this idea of a podcast. And basically, I reached out to both of you, Lucas first, and I just said, hey, I've got this idea for this podcast where we just ask people to tell their story and ask people to tell others how God has changed their life. And he was pretty much immediately on board, and it was so great. And so then I went to you and said, hey, you've been doing the Shepnaz podcast for a while. It's been a great show, and we'd love to take that experience and kind of mine your brain a little bit. And initially, I wasn't necessarily going to bring it on or offer it as a associated with Shepherd, but you had kind of given me that idea and said, hey, maybe reach out to Rob, see what he thinks about it. And we sent a proposal letter to Pastor Rob, and it was approved. And that way we can utilize some of the resources that the church has in order to do that. Now, that being said, we still, our main focus with this is kind of with the main focus of Shepherd Church. It's to help people tell their story, and it's to help people come to Jesus through other people's story. And I think that really, it's just such a powerful thing. You hear some of these stories, and it's not just, we hear some pretty intense stories sometimes, and we think, man, that's a killer testimony. And kind of where the name comes from is Lucas and I's own testimony, where both of our grandpas were pastors, and they were actually pastors at the same church. That's how we met. And so we had this really cool opportunity to be raised in the church. And I feel like that's just as powerful as a testimony, because we are proof that God's promise is fulfilling. He promises that he will bless generations. And I know I'm the product of that. And I know Lucas is the product of that. And obviously, you're the product of it, because it was your dad too.
Sure.
So.
Well, so what's the name, Lucas? What's the name of the podcast?
The PGK Show.
There we
Pastor's
go.
Grandkids Show. It is coming to you. What is it? The first Saturday of August?
Well, it is now, because you just said it. So, yeah, let's talk. We'll talk a little bit about that. No, it's all good. That's exactly what we talked about. I'm just making it rough for you. So it's going to be its own podcast. It's not going to be an episode of the Shepnaz Podcast. It is going to be its own podcast called the PGK Show. And we wanted it to be something that has a little bit different look, a different feel. This is, if you would, and you can take this for a little bit, Lucas, is like the format as far as length and stuff like that. What's that going to look like in comparison to what people are used to with the Shepnaz Podcast?
So the format of the PGK Show, coming back to a little bit of my personal experience, I listen to podcasts often. And my only complaint with the Shepnaz Podcast is that it's only 20 minutes long. And, when I'm doing chores or something like that, it's like, I spend more than 20 minutes, when I'm listening to the 20-minute podcast, like, it kind of falls in too early. So the PGK show is it's longer format. The goal is, we haven't settled on a specific time. I'm not going to say a time either because I don't want to make the same mistake twice. But hopefully a little bit longer than 20 minutes. Something that you can sit down and really digest and get into.
So when we're talking about the different format of the podcast, like intentionally with the Shepnaz Podcast, we were trying to fit within a drive time of 20 minutes to a half hour, or sometimes even shorter, sometimes 15 minutes. But, and when we wanted to tell longer stories, unfortunately, we had to be in a position where we're parsing it out over multiple days. And so this is going to be a unique opportunity to have a long form podcast, which really just depending on whose story it's going to be will kind of dictate the length of that podcast. But to allow somebody to actually tell their story and to have a way and a means by which they can share their full testimony and not have to worry about cutting things out, whatever it is that the Lord's wanting them to share, to be able to share that. So we're talking about recording towards the end of July and publishing at the beginning of August. And since we already have the Shepnaz Podcast coming out on the weekdays, we thought this podcast, at least to begin with, is going to be once a month. And it's going to drop on the first Saturday of each month. And you guys are just going to pick one person and kind of tell their story. So I'm assuming you guys have kind of a short list now of people that you have in mind. I don't know that we really want to reveal those names quite yet because we're still working on some details.
We'll keep it a surprise.
But at this point, I know that we'll be having some other ways to set up as far as how you're going to be able to communicate specifically with PGK Show. But for the time being, if you would be interested in being a part of this, of hey, I think I have a story to tell, certainly you can reach out to podcast@shepnaz.org, and we will be working with Luke and Lucas to kind of get people lined up and to be able to tell stories. So as we kind of wrap up for today, because unlike the PGK show, we are going to keep it to a shorter format for today. So tell us what we should be looking forward to and kind of what's going on with you guys right now and on even a personal level. So, Lucas, what are you up to these days?
Right now, it's mostly just working and eating and sleeping. So I'm working at actually here at Shepherd. I'm working at the school that is affiliated with Shepherd. What I'm helping with the summer camp. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, I'm going in about 9:00 and, helping out with all the kids. And I love them. All of them are blessings most of the time. Just kidding. They're blessings all the time, but a lot of them are ornery
but sometimes
every now and then
appreciate those blessings more than other times.
Exactly. You know exactly how to word that. And yeah, they're all lovely kids. I'm, going home at 6, eating dinner and doing the same thing.
Now, it's not all that just routine, because this time of year you get to do some stuff you really like to do.
Oh, yeah. I get to do my fun job, I like to call it. So on Monday, sorry, I forgot that this comes out later.
It comes out
as of recording.
Yes, in just a few
tomorrow,
hours.
You're right. I was thinking of the show. I forgot. So on Monday of, next week, we start setup for Red, White, and Boom. And as a licensed pyrotechnician, And because my dad is also head of the crew that does it, I also get to help out. And that is an all week long endeavor. Sun up, sun down. I'm going to lose a lot of weight, I'm sure, from all the sweat. That's going to be fun. Actually, funnily enough, let me run you through the schedule. Tomorrow we have a show. The day after that, no. Sorry. Sunday we have a show. The day after that, Boom starts. The day that Boom ends, we have another show. And then the day after that, we have another show. So it's definitely going to be an eventful week for sure.
Nice. And Luke, What are you up to this month?
So normally this time of year, I am shacking up with them pretty much and busting out some fireworks. I'm usually on the crew there. But this year is a little bit different because a week from when you're hearing this, if you're listening to it when it comes out on Friday, actually a week and a day. So Saturday, the 5th, I am going to Uganda with the church group that's going. I'm really excited about that. So I didn't want to do fireworks this year because I'm leaving the country right after. So it's an eventful week. And I'm really excited. I'm working. I do security work, and I absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. And then once I get back from Uganda is when I will be starting, or at least starting to look into preparation for ordination classes and getting that process started.
Nice. So in the meantime, you guys are also going to squeeze in some work on a podcast. And it will be the PGK Show, and it will be coming to you very soon. They're going to get to work on it during the month of July after they get some of their other stuff done. And you'll be able to hear it first on the first Saturday of August, which will be August the 2nd. Be looking for the PGK Show, and we will certainly be putting stuff out on social media for it. In the meantime, you can check out everything that's going on at the church by going to shepnaz.org. Also, we encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Luke and Lucas, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.